Okay, I've got a question. What does Bill Murray's Scrooge, The Great Unknown, and A Christmas Carousel have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in 2022's Hallmark film Ghosts of Christmas Always. And we've got a lot to talk about, Jennifer.
We sure do, Josh. And we will unwrap it all on this episode, our first episode for Christmas in July at Do You Watch What I Watch? Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh. It's Christmas in July. Can you believe it, Josh? We've just been waiting for 6 months for this moment.
I know, it just feels right. It feels right. This is really the first time I'm feeling myself get into the Christmas spirit for 2025. How about you?
Well, good. Yes, same. And we are going to beat the heat by talking about some of the all time coolest Hallmark Christmas movies voted on by you. Like what I did there?
I
I did
do.
a little segue too.
See, you got a segue in ya. Yeah. Here is the plot summary from IMDb. This one follows a woman named Catherine, a ghost of Christmas present, as she helps one soul to rediscover his Christmas spirit, but this year has something pretty unusual in store. Let's find out.
Okay, so we open to last Christmas. We're already doing a flashback, the first of many. And it's the ghosting of a lady who is meeting the three ghosts Catherine, our leading lady, who's the ghost of Christmas present, Arlene, who's the snarky ghost of Christmas past, and Roy, aka Carl Winslow, for the ghost of Christmas future. What did you think when you saw him on our screens again? I was a big Family Matters gal.
Same here. I saw his name in the credits, and it took me a little bit of time to realize, oh, this is Reginald. Reginald, we're seeing him, but I'm used to seeing him when he was in the 80s and 90s, and he definitely has aged a little bit, but it was very familiar and very warm, and I love to see him.
Yeah, I wish he'd been in the movie more, honestly, but that's okay. So,
Yeah.
this frightened lady thinks she's losing her mind, rightly so, because there's three strangers in her room, and she goes to grab the phone to call the police, and they do some Christmas magic, and poof, the phone turns into a box of tissues. And they're like, "You know the drill, here we are." The gist is it's the 23rd of December, and they're gonna get her to get her Christmas spirit back, and then she won't remember the details in the morning, but she'll be holly and jolly just in time to buy a Christmas goose, wink, wink. And then the opening credits roll. This is all for the opening credits. We're laying a lot of groundwork. So it shows her, she comes out of her apartment. She's got the Christmas spirit. It worked. The ghosts say they set a new record and they converted her in 3.5 hours. Catherine's going to explore Hartford, where they are with this lady, because that's also where she grew up for the rest of the night until she has to report back to the Great Hall at sunrise. The Great Hall is sort of like heaven meets Santa's workshop from the Santa Claus movie. Is that a good way of describing it? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
lots of wood details, lots of hustle and bustle and bright lights and
Feels like a
really
library of sorts. There's like
yes.
obviously little doorways to the real world where they can pop into different cities, that sort of thing. I like the way that they did that. Yeah.
It's like a business. So, she's, traipsing around Hartford and she reminisces and wanders the streets because no one can see her, right? Because she's a ghost who's presumably been dead a long time, been ghosting it up. So she does a breaking and entering in an old rundown bar called, what was it called? Rudy Tooties?
The Rudy Tooty.
Rich and Fruity? Yeah, the
Mhm.
Rudy Tooty. And, she's in the bar and there's like carving on the wall that says, Bets and Cat, and presumably that was part of her doing. Flashes back to, like, the '50s, I guess, when she was dancing-ish, 40s.
Seems about right. Yeah.
I couldn't really tell the exact time frame, but then modern day, a guy walks in and can see her. He thinks he recognizes her. He's like, "You look familiar." She's like, "Oh, no, couldn't be, And he's like, "Did you used to volunteer at the old community hall across the street?" His grandparents used to run it, but now apartments are being built because big bad developers gonna big bad develop. And turns out his family owns the whole block, which he was like, "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't." Like, he didn't mean to toot his own horn, but he kinda did. So this guy's loaded, his family's loaded, and he's a humble king, and his name is Peter. So it's almost daylight, so when he turns around, ooh, she's gotta disappear and go back to the Great Hall, or else she turns into a pumpkin, I guess. I don't know. Really
Yeah.
She's back at Ghost Central, and there are giant double doors labeled as the great unknown, and ghosts can choose to pass through there when they know it's the right time. They plant this little nugget just in casual conversation amongst the ghosts. Okay, cool, cool.
Stay tuned.
So, I guess, a little time passes, and then, like, how much time do ghosts who work at Christmas get off, you know?
I don't think they get
Not
much
sure.
time because the way they lay the foundation here is that the ghosts are apparently doing research in between Christmas Scroogings so they can figure out the best plan of attack when it comes to Scrooging their next assignment. So I guess it's kind of like a full-time gig for these ghosts. Do they get a 401k? Do they can they retire? What's the benefit package look like? I have questions.
I wanna know. I wanna know, yeah, what's the healthcare package? Do they get vision and
Do
dental?
they need it?
Always, and so yeah, do they need it? Reginald's teeth look great.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Apparently his
Like,
mother.
actually, all their teeth, their chompers look amazing. Maybe there's an in-house dentist at the Grand Hall or whatever this place is. These are questions that we have, the heavy-hitting journalists that we are. So, the trio sits down and, like, Jesus, Santa, leader, lady, whoever she is, comes and matches she flips a giant book, and they are selected to Scrooge Peter Barron in Hartford. It has a little sketch photo of his face, and it's the same guy Catherine met last Christmas. Oopsie doodle. They each get briefing folders based on past, present, and future, and like Josh said, they get to study for their upcoming mission. And cut to Christmas, past and future think something's off with this assignment. Like, what's going on? But the bell rings and they're all sent off on their little missions. It's kind of like Monsters Inc. when they all go through the doors.
Yes. Well
It's like
said.
that kind of passage montage, I just realized. But they go, and instead of monsters under the bed, it's three ghosts in your room. I don't know which one I would prefer. So, um, I just wrote, this is such an incredible concept. That's what I wrote here. It's just so good. So, they don't know what this guy needs Scrooging, they're hoping they can figure it out. We know he's got business dad issues because dad wants him to take over the big business, and is his heart in that place? We don't know. Because last Christmas when she saw him, he was sneakily feeding needy families out of the back of a van, like, undercover. So, he's got a heart of gold, he's torn with the business. Is that enough for Scrooging? I don't think so. If that's the case, there should be a Scrooging happening in every one of these movies we talk about. But the ghosts arrive and he's obviously freaked out and he recognizes Catherine right away. Oopsie doodle. Because
Double.
that's
Oopsie-doodle.
not
Yeah.
supposed to happen.
Nope, nope.
We have broken the third wall with the ghosting. Pass is going to take on a journey, but Peter won't go unless Catherine goes with them because obviously he thinks she's a hottie because she is. She looks like $1,000,000, Kim Matula. Oh. And she's like, I guess I can go. I just won't say anything. So off they go for the past viewing. And it's very against protocol. They flash back to young Peter building Legos with a friend from school, and his grandpa, Grandpa Bob, ran the community center and he would get gifts to kids who needed them. Peter ends up in this flashback giving away his Lego set that he had just gotten to this child, which is like super nice. Wouldn't you be so proud if your kid offered to do that?
It was a really
Right.
tender moment. Yes.
Yeah, well, Peter's dad was like, I just got you that set. Why are you giving it away?
Mm,
Strike 2, I think, at this point. I should have a counter, but there were too many to count
yeah.
of, strikes against Peter's dad. So, um, Grandpa's like, "Hey, Peter and Dad, why don't you stay for dinner?" And he's like, "No, we have reservations at the plaza." So we definitely see, like, Dad is into money and thinks he's above all this community hall stuff that Grandpa Bob was into. We pan, and we see a framed photo of Catherine on the table in the community center in the flashback when young Peter was at the community center with Grandpa Bob.
What? What is going on? A mystery
What
is
was
afoot.
what did you think of?
Literally,
So
I
did
had
I
no
see
idea.
okay, so I'd seen it. I saw it when it came out.
Mhm.
I will say I'd forgotten some bits of it, but I mean, I remember the gist. But this is your first take, so what were you thinking?
First take. So, A, I'm not going to hide my cards. I 1000% love this movie. And
I knew you would.
part of the reason I love this movie, and I don't feel like this is offering any kind of spoiler or anything, I think that they do a really good job of stringing you along the entire movie
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sprinkling little tidbits to keep you interested and wondering how it all works together. And this is one of those moments where you see that. And as I'm watching it, I literally had no conception of how it was all going to come together. Sometimes I'm able to figure these out early. This was not the case here, and I loved it because of that.
Mm. See, the first time I saw it, I thought, "Oh, no, she's his grandma."
That's what I thought too, and then I was like, "Are they gonna do this thing where they fall in love? I don't like
But
it."
full disclosure, the first time I saw this movie, I was so icked out by that I loved it in the end, but most of my first experience, I was so like, "No, they're not gonna do that, right? Surely
Surely they're not,
come on."
yeah.
That it did hold me back a little bit, where the second time I watched it, much improved because I knew that wasn't the case, but okay.
Yeah.
So, we see the picture, and then we cut to Grandpa Bob's last Christmas on Earth before he passed, and involved a carousel, and because every year they would go ride this Christmas carousel, and Peter says, "You never realize something is the last time until it's over."
Mm.
And that's so sweet and so true. You don't know, and, like, even raising kids, you don't know, "Oh, this is the last time they're gonna wanna play with Thomas trains." One day they just stop, and then you have to pack up the Thomas trains or sell them, and it's sad. And life's like that constantly, and it just really was poignant and sweet, but also simple. Like, they didn't make it too over the top cheese in this moment to me.
I love that it was not Kirkland's wisdom. We talk about that on
Mhm.
his podcast where it feels just like these throwaway platitudes. This was really well done in a way that was like, "Oh, they're absolutely right," just as you unpacked there. And I really love that that sort of gave this a lot of heart throughout.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm, very relatable too. So then they see the next year his parents got divorced, the year after that his mom got remarried and had a baby, and he's, like, forced to just, like, take a picture of mom, new dad, and the baby, and he's kinda feeling on the outs with the family, but so then he's left with dad, but dad's not, like, father of the year by any means, and so then we see his dad talking to older Peter about his future plans, and he's like, "You had Grandpa Bob's kindness, but his kindness was also his weakness," is what his father tells his son, Peter. And Peter's like, "Maybe I don't wanna take over the company after all, like, what am I doing?" So he has this kind of, mixed emotion here. Alright, Catherine's up, it's time for Christmas present, and they get dressed up and go to a few days prior to when this Scrooging occurred, because she can do a few days prior and then a few days after, I guess is how it works. So, she talks about how Dickens was actually the first Scrooge that got Scrooged, which I thought was funny. Like, they had these little quippy things and references to Dickens throughout that I thought were really funny. And, he talks to her about, "You were the woman who totally ghosted me last year," to Catherine. Because again, they're flirting, and it's not his grandma, so it's okay, guys. We can be okay with it.
Yeah.
So the week this is all happening in present day, Dad found out that Peter was handing out sandwiches out of the company van to those in need, and his dad yells at him because, one person turns him in, they get lawsuits. They have to shut down this van opportunity, and he talks about how Grandpa owned the block and had big plans for it, but he wasn't the best financial guy, and he sunk all their money into it. And that's really the crux. So Grandpa Bob had a heart of gold. Couldn't, add 2 plus 2 evidently. He gave away everything. Dad feels like I didn't get anything because my parents were bad with money, so he overcompensated to be Mr. Financial Guy and lost the heart, and hopefully, Peter maybe can course correct and be better. Who knows? Stay tuned. Alright. So all throughout, Peter keeps trying to defend his dad by saying it's complicated. And oh no, he didn't work on Christmas, except we see him working at Christmas and da 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 da. I thought that was interesting that he was not burying his dad for most of the movie. He was trying to stick up for him to the ghost. I thought that was
Yeah.
an interesting move.
I think that he felt this loyalty that he was really conflicted by. Like, he felt like he should be loyal and not throw his dad under the bus, but I think that it took him some time to realize because of all of this, just how backwards the relationship was with his dad. So it was kind of peeling back the onion
Exactly.
throughout him. So he did grow throughout the process. So I like that.
Yes. They're chit-chatting. He asks Catherine how she died, and she's like, "Oh, that's such a basic question." And basically, they all know that they died on Christmas, but they don't know the details. They don't remember it. They have no memory of it or recollection. She just knows she wasn't sick, so it was unexpected. They get a view of his mom in present day is sad that Peter won't be at their house at Christmas. His dad would rather Peter make money and write checks to nonprofits because handing out sandwiches isn't going to make a difference. Womp womp. So then Catherine tells Peter that she doesn't know. Oh, I said that she doesn't know how she died. And Peter realizes, you know what? I don't want the company after all. And they have a touching moment. And then they get snapped back to the apartment because, hey, the job is done. Scrooging over record time.
Check,
But
check.
Catherine and Peter don't want it to end. So she's like, "Maybe you, wink, wink, need more Christmas magic and Christmas spirit." And he's like, "Yes, I do." And even future ghost, Carl Winslow is like, "Yes, that's a loophole. We can do that." Because he is, as being the ghost of Christmas future, knows how this story is going to end. So he's like pushing them together more, which was very cute. Okay, so it starts to snow. He flirts with her. They ride the carousel. And then she, shows him the future a couple of days from there, and he runs into his ex-girlfriend, crush, whatever, who is, like, the only girl he ever really liked, and in present day, she's separated from her husband, and then this is, like, a weird tension thing because Catherine's like, "Oh, so what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go see her?" Like, she gets jealous over this potential opportunity of Peter getting back with his high school girlfriend because she can't be with him. It's a whole thing. So the time has come that Peter and Catherine need to part ways. They all have to go back to Scrooge and corporate, whatever we call that. Poof. Goodbye, Peter. Nice knowing you. All right. At corporate, oopsie doodles, they realize that Peter wasn't supposed to be the target of this Scrooging. Turns out Peter's dad's middle name is Peter as well, or his first, not the name he goes by, but one of his other names is Peter. And the magic book, like, pulled the wrong Peter file, so we know Peter's dad really is a Scrooge. Let's hustle, bustle, pull some strings. We have, like, 9 hours, the day of the 24th until the sun sets to turn this around. Boss sends them back out. They have no research, no wherewithal, and they can't approach Peter's dad, because they've already been seen. I don't know. I got a little lost in the sauce on that one. For whatever reason, they have to go through Peter to get to his dad. So they're gonna do this whole, like, um, oh, what is it when you're, like, whispering, the song? Like, well, telephone, but also no, it's like a novel or whatever where you're like, "Say this, blah, 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 blah." What is it called? Not Don Quixote. What is it? Like, the movie Splash or when it me
Yeah, mate.
I'll think of it later, and I'll get comments, I'm sure. Anyways, they were gonna try to tell Peter what to say to his dad to turn this all around. Moral of the story. So they go to Peter, give him the business, tell him what's going on, and he's like, "No, I can't be talking to you right now." Well, he's talking to her, Catherine, in the middle of the hall in the apartment because it's the middle of the day, and there are people walking by that see him talking to no one, and she's like, "That's why we Scrooge at night because you look crazy because you're talking to me right now," which was funny. So I guess if they don't s get the Scrooging successfully done with Peter's dad, the cosmic order falls apart or the world implodes or something. Unsure.
The stakes have never been higher.
An asteroid will strike the Earth if we don't get to the bottom of this.
Honestly, there's like a rip in the time continuum or something.
For real. Catherine then pops up at his mom's house. He's like, "Stop showing up here." So Peter's like, "Hey." Oh, because the next morning when after Peter's Scrooging, he ended up leaving a voicemail for his dad saying, "I don't wanna be a part of the business. I wanna open a community hall." So his dad, he's peeved off, or he's like, "He doesn't wanna hear from me because I wanna do this community hall thing. I wanna do something that matters. I would like to gain my father's respect too, but he's probably not gonna talk to me now." So he's trying to think of what dad likes, and he realized, "Hey, dad loved this singer named Susan." You know who Susan is? The lady they Scrooged last Christmas at the beginning of the movie.
Full circle.
She's this big singer, and it's, like, one of the only things that brings Peter's dad joy in this life, and so coincidentally enough, they're all in the same town. Peter approaches Susan because he knows where she lived because of the ghost and tells her the story. She's like, "You remember them too?" So, spoiler alert, they all remember, which I would think if I got ghosted by 3 ghosts, I probably would remember a little bit.
Exactly. I agree.
Mm. So, she's happy to oblige. Susan shows up to Peter's dad and is like, "Hey, I would love to sing at your Christmas party. Your son told me you're a big fan." And he's like, "Great, that's great." So she does sing at the Christmas party, and I thought this song was cringy.
I
Was
agree.
it supposed to be
I
was it
think
supposed
so.
to be bad?
I think it was supposed to be a little bit on the cheesy side. That's clearly
It was the cheesiest Christmas song, and
yeah.
she was wearing, like, a lacy Christmas it's like she was trying to seduce Peter's a little bit.
I
Boom,
think
boom,
so.
boom.
It was a little cha-cha.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know, but the lady who played Susan, I looked her up, she's actually, like, a Tony Award winning, like, big Broadway baby, like, very popular musical theater gal. Um, but this song didn't do it for me, but anyways, Dad's super jolly, he's having a Merry Christmas, and they're like, "Go, get him now. Tell him what you want, because if you get what you want and your dad gets what he wants, everybody can be happy and the space-time continuum can live on." Well, Peter approaches Dad, and he's not happy with Peter, and they end up yelling at each other on Christmas Eve, no less. Peter's flustered. He runs outside and he tells Catherine everything was fine until you showed up. And people are staring because he's talking to a ghost in the middle of the day in the valet line at the house. He storms off. Catherine tries to quit until the ghost of past and future say, "It's not about him. This is about you, Catherine." Then we have part 3 of this
Mhm.
movie the Scrooging of Catherine. We go past takes her back. And so we see young Catherine at Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity back in the day, and they figure out Betsy was Catherine's best friend, and every night Betsy worked at the bar, Catherine would meet her there, and they would walk home together. Well, Betsy was Peter's grandma, wife to Grandpa Bob. We're tying up the loose ends here.
It all
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
So we see them, they leave the bar, Betsy and Catherine, and it's cold enough to freeze your Winnebago outside. And they walk to the new like corner store where Grandpa Bob had just opened. So that shows Betsy meeting Grandpa Bob. And they pass a family who's hard up on times. They don't have anywhere to live, hungry, and Catherine's giving them food. And then she's like, "Ah, I really need to get them some blankets because it's freezing outside." And Grandpa Bob's like, "You know what? Take these blankets, take this extra produce, take it to him." Catherine leaves while Betsy and Grandpa Bob are flirting. Catherine leaves the corner store,
Mm, mm.
and that's the night that Catherine died.
By a
What?
tar. Yeah.
Hit struck by a vehicle in the snowy snowbank while she was on her way to deliver blankets and food to this family in need. What were your thoughts, Josh?
Gut wrenching. Yes, absolutely. I was surprised. I was grieved. And what made this even sadder is that Catherine, the ghost of Christmas Present, finally learned the way that she died. Right. And I think for her to experience that was really gut wrenching, like I said. And I think that they played it so well. It could have been so much
So
more
well.
cheesy and so much more heavy, but I think that they did it really well and really tastefully, and it made sense in the whole scheme of things. What did you think?
Oh, my heart was on the ground, but yeah, it's her face acting was so good because you do see like her realizing the end part of her story on Earth that she never knew. But it wasn't like this, like big gut wrenching, like fall to the floor crying thing. It was just like her processing it all. And it was very emotional and so well done. So turns out Catherine inspired Grandpa Bob and Betsy. They got married, obviously had a family and all that. They started the community center. And that's why Catherine's picture was always on display. And that's why Peter recognized her. They framed the old photo and they show in another flashback. This is where it was getting a little much for me, but they show, like, basically they're eulogizing Catherine a year after her death at the bar, and her friend Betsy was reading, some words that she'd said, but she didn't finish it because she got choked up, and she put it in the back of the frame picture in the flashback and put it away. And Catherine's like, "I gotta know what else she said." Modern day, present day, Catherine and Peter go find the framed picture, find the piece of paper in the back. Then they go have a heart to heart, or Peter does with his dad. And turns out Grandpa Bob had, or Betsy had written this note saying that she wanted her children, because she was pregnant with Peter when she wrote this, when Catherine died. Or the year after she died, she wanted her children to grow up with the heart that Catherine had. And Peter's dad, spoiler alert, kind of lost the plot there. So then he's all upset and moved. It's a whole thing.
Whole thing. Oof.
Okay. So then Peter tells Catherine, I think we could have loved one another. And if he never finds love like that again, it's okay. He's not going to go in modern day to the tree to meet his ex girlfriend because he doesn't want that. She made him feel love and believe in love, and they have 5 minutes until their deadline. Carl Winslow steps in to take Catherine to her future, and she sees, like, split-second shots of her opening the bar with Peter, having a baby, etcetera. It's so fast, and then they get, whoop, snapped back to the corporate hall, and Catherine is like, "What do I do? What do I do? I love this man. What do I do?" And Carl Winslow encourages her to go through the doors, and she does, to the great unknown. Turns out, corporate lady had pulled strings. This is like a long con. I guess this was the plan all along. They knew that this is what needed to happen. Peter and Catherine needed to end up together. So the whole Scrooging of Susan last year began this long process. It was never an oopsie doodle of Scrooging Peter first. It was all planned. It was all according to plan the whole time so that she could meet her soulmate. She goes through the doors and she sees Peter and they reconcile, or not reconcile, but they kiss, and then cut to, I guess, next year. And Susan, the lady's singing at the community hall. Dad's like, feels
Feeling it.
chilling out at the bar, feeling it. He's excited that she's there. I guess are they dating? I don't know.
I
I think
think
so.
so. Yeah. I'd like to believe they are.
Peter and Catherine are handing out food to the people in the town. Everybody's happy. It's now called the Frog Hollow Angel, which is what the old place used to be, and now Rudy Tooty's has turned it into that, which is a terrible name, but whatever. And now it's in honor of Betsy, and there's a picture of Betsy, grandma, hanging up. What about Grandpa Bob? Couldn't I gotten a picture of both of them?
Maybe.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then we fade to black.
It's time for gold or coal. Oh.
All right, it's time for our gold or coal segment. If you're new to the podcast, here's what we do. We like to give gifts, right? It's Christmas in July, so we're going to give some gifts here. We're going to give gold for things we like. We're going to give some coal if there's something we don't. And in the total, if there's more gold, we're going to call it as it was meant to be. If there's more coal in this, it's best left in the past. And if it's a tie, just 3-3, we're going to call it a meh. Merry Christmas. Jennifer, coming to you first.
I mean, I don't think it's surprising to anybody that we love this movie. We both said it, but I will give some gold. I love that this was an original story, even though we've all seen the Scrooge Dickens story played out 1,000 different ways in movie and theater and everything, all kinds of media. This was a different take on it. And like I said before, I love this whole concept of like Scrooging is sort of a business, and there's protocols and there's handbooks and all these other things. Loved it. I honestly wish they would do more of these movies with, like, different trios of ghosts Scrooging people. I would watch them all. So,
Yeah,
gold.
yeah, agreed. I'm gonna give some gold to start. This one was really funny at points. I think that they did a great job with the casting. The way that they casted these three ghosts who worked together, past, present, future, was just so great. You know, you had the star in the middle, and then you had these sort of wacky in different ways, polar opposites around her. And I thought it really just added this fun dynamic throughout. So I really liked the B characters in this one. So gold.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. They felt very much like coworkers who have worked together a lot.
Yes.
I will give some gold. This movie is so deep and heavy, but not in a bad way. Like, just like we said before, they handle it so well, but, like, in the end, the fact that corporate ghostdom, whoever, knew all along that this was part of the plan, you can take that if you're a Christian and apply it to God. Like, we believe as Christians that there is a plan, and it may not always make sense, and it may hurt, and there'll be highs and lows, but that it will ultimately all work together for good. And this was like a different way of showing that, but I think the concepts are still there that you can apply to Christianity too. So I really
Yeah.
loved that.
More gold for me. The chemistry between these leads was sparking and off the charts for me. I bought it through and through. And the thing I really liked is you could tell that they were both conflicted about this sparkage, you know? He was like,
Mm.
she's a
That's weird.
ghost.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, they didn't try to hide that fact that it was a little weird, and we had some hurdles to overcome. And both of them were like, what the heck? I'm just going on. I'm feeling. But I really like that they sort of leaned into the weirdness of it all and didn't just do like touched by an angel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't that. They really leaned into that aspect. So I appreciate that. So gold.
I never watched Touched by an Angel, did you?
1 or 2 episodes. It's really before our time.
I know. I didn't know if this was kind of a similar concept that an angel comes to like help you fix your stuff or not. I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Anyways,
Hmm.
you took mine, so I was sort of stalling. Because I wrote Kim Matula and Ian Harding are serving straight fire in this movie. But what else can I say to I mean, this is an all-timer, okay? I know it was only from 2022. This should be in the pantheon of Hallmark Christmas movie greats. And it did get a lot of praise when it came out, but I want more. So I'm gonna say gold for more positive, positive response and feedback of this movie.
Yeah. No.
I don't know what else to say. The
Yeah.
gold, whatever it is, put gold here because it deserves all the gold. It is perfect. I can't think again, other than the first time I watched it, I was afraid it was his grandma most of the time. That did hold me back, but the second time I loved it even more. The other minor, the song is unfortunate, but other than that, 100% perfect movie. So,
Yeah. It's the same for me. I mean, I texted you when it was over and I was like, this movie has no right to be this good.
yeah,
And
it is not at all.
dear listener, we don't talk about these movies before we hop on the podcast together so that we can, have a legitimate conversation. But I felt like I had to because it was just that good. If you've never
Yeah.
seen this one, do yourself the favor, watch this. Even if it's not Christmas, watch this. It's just that good. It is heartwarming and funny and joyous at the end. And you know what? That whole thing about like, is this grandma? I kind of actually enjoyed that because so often in these movies, the romance is easy and we've got 1 or 2 hurdles to get over.
Mhm.
This one, it was like, is this really what they're doing? And I kind of like, I enjoyed that I sort of had to sit with that for a minute or two until it resolved. So the bottom line here, as you could tell, we love this one. Start to finish.
Yeah.
Great. Great, great, great. 6 gold. We are absolutely going to say this is one that should be in your rotation. So there you have it. Have you seen this one? If you have, we want to hear your thoughts, your comments, your favorite part, anything that maybe bugged you. Let us know. Drop a comment
Mhm.
here below. And of course, we'd invite you to connect with us on all of our social channels. You can find links to everything about us on our website at doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com.
That's right. And special thanks to Nick Schwartz as always for our theme song. Thank you for listening and watching. Hey, we're really kicking into high gear. We should have at least one new episode a week from now until January.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
giddy up.
Stay tuned.
Now's the time. Let's get going. We're doing Christmas movies until Christmas movies of the past until the new ones kick in, which will be here before you know it. So it's a great time to get plugged in.
Absolutely. So next time, we've got another one that is getting a lot of fans excited about Christmas, and this is from 2023. It's a Thanksgiving Christmas combo movie here. You might have heard of it, called Holiday Hotline. Here's the plot synopsis. After leaving London, Abby connects with an anonymous caller while working at a cooking hotline. The caller is single dad John, who Abby unknowingly has become smitten with in real life. We're going to have much to discuss with that one, but until then,
May your days be merry and bright. We'll see you next time.